recording. Okay. Good morning, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 FPS. My name is Kieran, D.E.W.P. I am just a lurker. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'm not a lurker. I am a participant of this server that is the Toonkind server, and today I'm going to be playing who else but my lovely bastard bird friend, Lao Vis Blind. And yeah, I'm going to be playing with a very wonderful person today who also has a very cool person I love very much and hold very softly. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm CyDragon. I'm Cy. I'm playing Tessura the Funky Cryptid. He's had a time. He's had... This lizard has had such a time in the past, 4 or 5 days. They've had a time.
Yeah, so. I would suggest listening to, what was it called, Cy? What was the FPS?
A Midnight Hunt. That happens before this, and this is kind of referring a lot to that event. So if you don't want spoilers, go listen to that first. And then you can listen to this. Or listen to this first. I can't tell you what to do. Have fun.
Yeah,
do what you want.
Do what you want. It's up to you, my dudes. But I would recommend doing so as well, because that was an FPS that went down. But
that was some drama.
Yes. Okay, so set the scene. Hey,
all
Simon,
right.
what's up with Tess? Going on?
So we're thinking how we start this. So Lao's at the farm. Lao is probably been he's visiting Carmenia. He's leaving the farm.
Yeah.
And to do that, he's got to probably got to pass by the big old barn. And I think, do you want to roll perception or do you just want to walk? Just walk along the path.
If given the option between just doing something or rolling, I'm going to choose a roll.
Please roll. That's a 13.
All right.
Well, you hear some as you get closer to the far side of the barn, not in the barn, but on the far side of the barn, you hear some rustling and then a thunk. And then, after a short moment, there's another thunk. Are you going to investigate that? Or are you just going to keep walking in the path?
See, now the thing is, Lao, this has happened after another FPS that's happened, which is Spice and Dice. So Lao's he's kind of tuckered out a little bit, but he doesn't know what that noise is, and he can't just leave the farm with unrecognizable things potentially lurking around, despite how slightly tired he might be feeling at the moment. So he's probably going to try and stealth his way to have a look, because
by all means, roll stealth.
Oh, that's decent.
Right. Fortunately, that's better than Tess's passive perception, because
really?
Tess has a 13 to perception. He's not very perceptive. And besides, he's also extremely not physically tired. He slept fine. He's just mentally just done right now. He's just this lizard has had a time. He's still trying to get himself back in order and put on a face of nothing's wrong. I'm fine. I'm having a good day. Yes, precisely. He's been doing a so-so job. It's
I hold him so softly, dude.
And so Lao probably wheels around the back side of the barn away from, it's the exact opposite side of the house. You get the feeling that whatever this is not going near the house. And you see there's probably been some hay bales, either they're just situated there or they've been dragged out there. I don't know hay bales. But you see a certain very tall lizard that stand up. He's standing in the middle of them. And then he's going to reach over his shoulder, grab one of the spikes on his back, kind of pull it off, and there's some weird energy that forms into a glowing blue blade that he holds. And then he's going to do the same with another one. And then he's going to spin around and whip them very fast at one of the hay bales facing into the woods. And I'm going to see if he can actually hit with these, because I have no idea. That's a nat 20 for the first one.
Damn. I would
Let's
say
go
that goes straight
and
through the
then
hay
a
bale.
25.
Okay.
So, they go. Yeah, one probably goes straight through the hay bale, and fizzles out on the far side, and the other one goes straight through. And I'm gonna spin them around and invert them for the sake of hilarity. And it goes through the same hole, and it goes through the hay bale again, and this hits a tree on the far side. Through the same hole as the first one.
Okay.
And you get the feeling that Tessura has not spotted you, Lao. He is facing away from you. And do you want to roll perception specifically on him? Or do you want to like? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna like speak up? Do you want to look closer? Or what you gonna do?
Lao is. I think Lao's gonna make sure you're not gonna throw any more knives first.
No, he's only had the two hands.
He's gonna look at those throws, and then he's just gonna slowly clap. And
There's a jolt from Tess because he was not expecting someone else to be there, and he kind of turns his head, but he stays like somewhat facing away. He's like, "Oh, didn't expect to see you here. Hello again."
hello, Tessura. It's good to see you. And doing a bit of target practice, are we? And gestures towards the sizzling hay bale. I just imagine it's like a.
Sorry, Carmania. Sorry,
Yeah.
Carmania. Your hay bale's a bit singed.
Just a little singe. There's a big old hole in the middle of one of them, and tosses his head towards that and looks back at you and says, "Doing a bit of target practice, are you? I thought, well, those are mighty good shots at that distance. I suppose it's not altogether that difficult to get it, considering how close you are, but good shots nonetheless." And is it safe to say that that target was at 20 foot?
Probably with the force, with the nat 20, like
Yeah.
I'd say it was just like the sheer force of it just slammed into it at that range. Tess kind of tilts his head to one side a little bit and is, thank you. It's just practice, like you said. He kind of reaches up and like rubs at his head a little bit. He's wearing his well, I know actually his hood's probably pulled down, but his cloak's still around his shoulders.
Okay. Do you want to roll insight on Lao?
Yes.
He's looking at
I would love to roll insight with Tessa's flat roll. This would be great. It's a 19. Man, 2018 and a 19 at the beginning of this FPS. Tessa's not going to roll it good again.
Tess is doing good. Yeah, Tess, with that roll, you look over and you see Lao is staring intently, with a very thoughtful look on his face at the target you were throwing at, and you get the impression that he's considering something. His hands are also sort of twitching a little bit. Like he's stopped clapping and he's rested his hand on the arms of his wheelchair, and you see his fingers just start to drum on the side of the wheelchair, and he's humming a little, and you get the impression he may be thinking of possibly joining you on this, because you are aware.
Tess is very aware that Lao has a dagger.
You are aware that Lao, in fact, does own a knife of his own, and
Tess is all too aware of that knife.
Tess is very aware, and
yes.
he looks like he is potentially considering joining you. You also kind of get the impression he's not gonna say anything about it. But he is gonna look back at you and say, "Well, how long have you been doing this for then? It seems like you've been at it for a while."
You mean today or in general, or just kind of tilts his head to one side a little bit?
day's practice. I presume, considering your, and he gestures at your back, at the knives at your back, your proclivity for those, that this isn't the first time you've started practice with these. How long have you been?
Oh, basically, pretty much all my life. As soon as I figure I could do it, I took me a little bit to figure out that I could turn them into knives, but yeah. And he kind of reaches over his shoulder and summons another one and kind of tosses it in one hand. He's still not turned around though. He's kind of keeping the front of his cloak like turned away a little bit, and he's kind of, but he's looking back at Lao and goes, "Don't I mean I know you have a dagger. I know you have a whip. Like, do you use those like to practice and stuff?"
Um, you're gonna you're gonna hear him chuckle and say, "Well, I certainly used to be. Well, I don't mean to brag, but I was a tab hand at a whip and dagger when I was younger. I'll admit it's been a little while since I've had the chance to practice." And he gestures again at the hay bale, still sizzling in front of you, and says, "I'll admit it's been a little while since I've actually been in any sort of. There's not been much need for me to practice my combat skills, as it were, but
Yeah,
perhaps."
it kind of does seem like a lot of people out here don't get in fights quite as often as I'm used to. He kind of rubs his head again with his free hand, like, oh, yeah, you get the idea. That he means that. uh,
Yes,
can't say it's not a welcome thing, though. I would quite appreciate the fact that most people don't pick fights usually
I'm sure
on
most
a
people
day-to-day basis.
I'm sure most people are appreciative of the fact that not everyone's brawling in the streets 24/7. And as he says this, I'm gonna roll some things.
What you gonna roll?
Cool. And cool. So he reaches underneath his blanket with both hands, and in one hand he pulls out his whip, and in the other hand he pulls out his Everfrost dagger, and he's gonna look over towards you and say, I don't suppose you'd mind a little bit of company doing this." And he gestures toward the targets you set up. "I feel I may at some point need to become a little more familiarly acquainted with these." And he just tilts his weapons in the air towards you.
That's kind of, there's a quiet, like, half chuckle, and then he kind of sweeps one arm out, is like kind of a slight, like, half bow. It's not a very deep bow. He's kind of joking a little bit, like, by all means, I'm not going to lay claim to them. They're not my hay bills, after all, they're Herminia's. Do
Well,
you
let's.
want to roll? Do you want to roll perception with just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I'll roll perception quickly.
That's a
That
three. Nah,
one.
nothing's up. Nothing's up. He just kind of swept his arm out like a little half bow. For the audience, you can see that Tess's cloak is a little bit singed around the edges, especially like it's a little tattered. But nothing's wrong. Nothing's
To
wrong.
be
And
fair,
Tess is offering, like, he's kind of standing a little bit to the side now, like, if you want to join in, by all means.
Lao is gonna look at Tessura and give him a little bit of a smirk, and he's gonna say, "All right, well then, let's see." And he's gonna look around. He's gonna look around for another hay bale, and he is going to.
Like, 3 or 4 set up at close range. And then probably like another 3 or 4 at like longer range. And there's a couple that are like really far away.
Yeah,
Not really far, but like, 60 feet usual range.
yeah.
As one does.
Let's see.
Like you said, 20, 40, 60, I'm thinking.
Oh dang. Okay, this doesn't work the way I thought it would. All right. Okay, so what he's going to do, he is going to roll up to one of the targets. He's going to line himself up. He's not going to line himself up facing it head on. What he's going to do, he's going to slightly tilt himself to the side of it at almost a 45-degree angle. So he's just diagonally facing away. And with his offhand, or with the hand furthest away from the target, you're going to see him roll. You're going to see him roll the dagger between his palm a couple of times before he is going to fling it. And with the 14, I'd say
Man, that's a hit.
he hits it. He hits it kinda. I mean, if this is a kind of ring hay bale target, I'd say he hits it quite a bit away from the center, just probably like on an outer ring kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just about gets it on there. And he sighs, and he's like, oh, for goodness sake, I used to be so. And he's gonna just roll over and yank dagger back out, and come back towards Tess and say, oh, well, I don't suppose you want to give it another go, do you? And he's gonna roll back towards you and says, I suppose it'd be your turn, considering you were here first after all.
So accept, and he's gonna probably he's gonna like hold the first one that he already summoned in his hand for a moment, just considering, and then probably like so he probably hit the one they hit first is still sizzling. The one that Lao hit is probably got a little bit of frost on it or something.
Yeah.
From the dagger, I'd say. And then he's gonna toss like not toss it in his hand, but like hold it in his hand, considering for a second, and then fling it at the third target that's close by, and reach over his shoulder, grab another one, and fling it again, and fling the second one at the same target in quick succession, like with a spinning motion, like thunk thunk, like that. If it actually hits, I'm gonna see if it hits.
12 and 18.
So one's in the outer ring, one's probably nearer to the center, like almost at the center. Like hit it, probably clipping the edge of the center, but not in the center.
Yeah. And now,
and then they fizzle, and then they vanish, with kind of like kind of just static, like not quite static, but like there's a little like fizzle when they fade away. Yeah, it's not fire, but it's psychic damage. So they're not quite physical, and you notice that barring the one that went straight through the target, none of them actually like leave quite marks. Like the paper might have like I don't know if the paper would have a nick in it or not. Like honestly, because technically they don't actually leave any injury to target. So I'm like wondering if they actually leave any damage at all in the paper. They'd probably go through the paper and then they fizzle away. The paper's still there.
What if?
But you saw the first one vanish. Like the first one like went through with the target. And there's still a hole in there. So
what if
something?
They leave like a little blue, like a blue spot, almost like ink, on it.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's not.
There's not
damaged.
a cut in the paper, but it's like there's damage to the paper in some way.
Yeah, it's not damaged. It's there's a bit of it left over. There's a reminder. There's a point. Something was there at some point.
For anyone wondering, Tess got the targets by probably talking to Carmenia, being like, can I borrow some paper and like a pencil or a marker or a pen or something, and then went and drew targets.
Oh gosh. I'm just imagining Tess trying to draw targets with their big old claws.
And they're probably a little lopsided, not gonna lie, but it's just like concentric circles. Like they're not gonna be like good circles, but they get the point across.
Not accurate circles, but they work.
They're a target. If you can hit a point on a paper that's indicated, that's all you really need. Like the center is still a center, regardless of where in the paper it is.
True.
At least that's Tess's reasoning.
Tess has decent reasoning. I'm going to. Lao is going to.
And he's probably gonna stand off to the side and like bow again, like offering offering yep, like your turn again.
Right. All right. Let's give this another go because, quite frankly, that former throw was atrocious. I need to hit this one now. Come on, why don't you? Give me a second. I want to check something.
Yeah. Oh, I've got an idea.
Cool. You wanna roll me a quick perception?
Yeah. It's going on my. Wait, where is my perception? Hello.
What's your perception mod, by the way?
A +3.
Oh, okay. You're gonna get this anyway then, but
That's a 9.
yeah, but I rolled a 4. Sleight of hand. You see Lao. He's trying to be sneaky. He's not very sneaky. You see Lao just kind of tap himself on the hand, like he just squeezes the hand holding the dagger, and you can just sort of see a little sort of shimmer along his outline, and you can tell he's just cast a spell. He has cast Bless on himself.
Well, if it hits, it hits. That's Tess's reasoning. Like,
Yeah.
he isn't gonna judge. He's got True Strike. He just doesn't call it that.
Yeah. So whenever a target makes an attack roll or a saving throw before the spell ends, target can roll a d4 and add that number to the throw.
Bless is such a fun spell.
Yes. Let me
so
see.
Good.
Oh, it's concentration. I can only add the 1, can't I? Yeah, it's just the 1. So let's try to hit again. So Lao's going to do the same thing as he did before. He's going to turn 45 degrees from the target. He's going to lift his arm with the dagger in the hand furthest away, and he's going to turn it and he's going to fling it again. And then I've got to roll. Wow!
Oh. It's marginally closer than it did the first time. Oh, sorry, Lao.
He did worse than he did before. He hit.
I thought it was
again.
What was it before then?
It was 14. This is a 13.
Oh.
So.
Oh no! Wow, you need some practice.
Oh gosh.
Sorry.
He throws it again and it thunks into the target. It's on the paper. It's just slightly outside compared to where he hit before. It's slightly outside where he hit before, and he's gonna huff, give a deep sigh, and roll back over. And you can roll an insight here if you want. Yes.
I would love to roll an insight. It's funny. Oh, I keep forgetting. Can't anything. That's a flat 11.
Okay, 11. Okay, so with an 11, you can see Lao is tense. That's all you can really get. Lao's just his outline has gotten slightly spiked outwards just a little bit. It's barely noticeable. It's more like little spines have grown out slightly on his outline, but that's about it. You can't really tell what that means. And he once again rolls up to the target, yanks his dagger out, and rolls back towards you and sighs and says, "Perhaps I'll have better luck if I actually hit it from a further distance. It seems that this," and he tosses a finger back over his shoulder at the target, "maybe it's because I'm too close to the target. Perhaps I'll do better if it's further away. I think that actually might help a bit more than this."
Tess just tilts his head to the side and is like, I will. Okay. I mean, I've got a couple other ones set up, and he kind of points out the ones that are a little bit farther away. Like the ones that are like he points out the ones that aren't just the ones immediately surrounding them. Like he's set a couple like a little bit farther away. They're all facing like away from the barn, though. So because the barn's sort of like starting point.
Lao's just
But
gonna...
none of them are in the direction of the path either. They're all like facing off into the woods.
Yeah, that's fair and smart. Don't want to accidentally injure any of the bugaboos or any visitors.
Tess was not expecting Lao to show up, but he was probably expecting like Carmina to like walk around the side of the barn or something like that. He's like, just gonna make sure these are all aiming where I can see them. easily in one direction without like ship turning around too much.
Yeah, smart learn. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Lao's gonna. Well, I suppose considering this is your range, you should go first, and then I'll go after. Hmm? Perhaps I'll pick up something from you. Who knows? Considering you seem to be doing a rather decent job of it, as he says, and he looks over his shoulder again at the target.
Also, it's also kind of I've been doing this my whole life and haven't really stopped. And you said you've taken a little bit of a break, so everyone needs to practice. If you don't practice something, you're gonna keep up on it. Yeah,
You can roll
I mean, I
insight
should
if you
know
want
that.
again.
Yeah, please. Do you want to roll insight on test too?
Yes. Let us insight each other.
All right, I'll roll. Me my flat insight. I love this.
Yay!
Oh, that's a
No rolls the game.
oh snap.
Oh, actually, that would have been a 6. Oh,
All right,
damn.
well, yeah.
Even
What
so.
is with Tess's rolls? It's mildly terrifying.
Oh my gosh, what the hell? Yes.
He's rolled so many 18s, 19s, and 20s. Hello, I am
Yes.
concerned.
Oh,
Well,
that insight. That insight.
well, you got a 6. Well, he did. He said he should know. So, like, I mean, maybe he's talking about something. Like, you get the idea. He's talking about, like, yeah, if he's got some experience. So if you don't practice something, you forget parts of it. Yeah. What is Tess get with the 19?
19. When you say if you don't practice, or if you don't practice, you're gonna forget, or you're not gonna be, you're not gonna have as much experience with it. You see Lao kind of sort of turn his head away and squint a little bit, and you kind of get the impression from his posture and the way he's just sort of shuffling a little uncomfortably and he's picking at his blanket that he doesn't quite believe that. He doesn't think that practice is he doesn't think that you need to keep practicing to
Poor Lao, my dude.
Look, you get the feeling from what you know of Lao, he's kind of a not a perfectionist, but he has a very firm belief that once you know something, you know something. And he, with that 19, you think he feels a bit iffy about himself not being able to throw on the targets.
Well, in Tess's head, he thought he knew everything. And then life changed, and now he doesn't know anything. So he knows that if you don't practice something, you're going to be worse at it than other people. Like, you need to practice these things. And also, like, he hasn't really used magic since he left the forest up until, like, a couple days ago. And he's kind of like, oh, I've forgotten a lot of stuff. I don't know what I'm doing with that. People don't want me to do stuff with that. Tess is very, very familiar with forgetting, like being rusty at stuff you're not actively practicing. That's what's going on in Tess's head. He is just high key. Oh, yeah, no, this is familiar. I think he's gonna. Well, wait, I forget whose turn it was. Honestly,
It's your turn.
Was it Tessa's turn? I think he's just gonna. He's not gonna say anything like after that. He's just kind of gonna quietly nod, and then probably throw daggers again. What do you do? 1 or 2? Probably. He's been doing 2. Why not keep doing 2? Not as flashy this time, just functional. Like, all right, gonna chuck him. That's a
20.
Man. Tess, hello. You're scaring me, my boy.
Tess
My
has got
child.
some stuff.
And then one goes whizzing past the hay bale, like completely misses and fizzles off in the grass somewhere. The other one hits nearly, like, it hits the center. It's a little bit off center, but like it's in the center for sure.
I flavor this
one
by
just
saying,
completely flubs.
and I flavor this by saying that nat 20, not that nat 20, sorry, that dirty 20. Tess looks at the target and looks back at Lao and sees Lao staring at him very intently. And that 9 is, would you say, Tess is a pretty nervous guy, right?
Currently, yes.
You know,
Lao makes him a little bit nervous.
the staring doesn't help.
The staring does not help. Tess doesn't have eyes. He can't stare back as easily. And also, the last two times he interacted with Lao were both extremely tense, and now it's like not as tense, but also he doesn't know. He doesn't quite know how Lao is going to react or what to make of Lao. He's just like, I'm going to be nice to you. Please don't hurt me again. Please don't hurt yourself again.
Oh, Sunny.
Please just be careful. That's like what goes on his head whenever he comes across Lao right now.
I'm gonna roll perception quickly because he was staring at you. The 16 for the perception. He has been looking at you while you've been throwing. So what can I get with a 16?
Well, I think. Well, you say that Tess, like when you interacted with Tess the previous two times, like he's had this cloak for a while, but it wasn't ragged. He takes pretty good care of it. Like it may have been a little bit nicked at the bottom, but like the rest of it was in pretty good condition. And now it kind of looks extremely like there's some areas that look tattered. Like they are ragged. The body of the cloak is fine, but like the front edges and like areas they're like really kind of raggedy and torn, and they're more than a little bit singed in spots. Like there's some holes singed through it in some other areas. And then when he threw the first one before he missed the second one, like when he threw the first knife, you kind of got a glimpse of his chest and like the coat, and the coat is even more ragged than the cloak. Like it's still a functional coat, but there's like some singed holes and nicks in it for sure. And then like probably, yeah, he looks like he may have gotten into some trouble.
Okay. At that, Lao's gonna throw his route. Lao's gonna narrow his eyes and look at Tess and say, Tess, have you spoken to Carmenia about your coat? You seem to have, well, that seems to have all gone. And he just kind of, he puts the whip that he has yet to use in his lap, and he just kind of poofs his hand out in like a kind of way. Says, it seemed to have, well, it seemed to be running it rather ragged, and
right,
spoken to her about mending it.
You weren't here for that. Kind of trying to not worry her too much because, like, that was stuff happened the other night, and well, she's already got enough on her plate.
Lao's eyes are immediately going to narrow and say, "What do you mean? Something happened, and what do you mean?"
There was. She's got a whole farm to worry about. There was a misunderstanding between me and a friend of hers, and well, he kind of waves a hand in the air. I'm quite fine. It's just, it was. It's not every day you get minorly exploded. Misunderstanding, though. We did clear it up.
Okay, hang on a second. That was a lot to address. Give me a moment. There are some rolls I need to make here. Okay.
It's just like, yes, that was a time. How do I go back explaining this? In the worst way possible.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Lao. This is your one job. You're supposed to be good at this. You're a cleric. That was a medicine check. You got nat 1. He cannot tell what is wrong with you, and he
Tess is also keeping his cloak like over the coat mostly. You only got a glimpse of it, of the coat underneath. Like,
I think
the cloak itself is pretty raggedy, but
I think with this nat 1, it's less that he can't see and more that he can't tell what the hell is wrong because he's assuming the worst because he cannot see what's wrong. And the way you're shifting and trying to cover it, he's gonna assume that something very bad has happened here.
No,
so
it's not
what's gonna happen is he's actually gonna tuck the whip and dagger back under his blanket, and then he's gonna roll back over to you. He's gonna roll towards you, Tessura, and he's going to say, Tessura, I know that something's happened, but I need to check you over. Will you take off would you take off your cloak and your coat and let me take a look? I'm gonna roll persuasion.
That's kind of, man.
This is 13.
Tess wouldn't mind taking off the cloak, but like, doesn't really want to take off the coat. I think he's gonna kind of. He's not moving away from Lao, but he's kind of just standing there, not really moving much, and just kind of. Carmina already did heal anything that was physically hurt, mostly. Like, I'm not injured, swear.
Okay. Lao is going to narrow. Lao is going to narrow his Lao is going to narrow his eyes even more at you, and you're going to see one of his hands grip the arm of his chair slightly, and you can roll an insight on this. And
I would love to roll insight.
he's going to look at you again and say, Tessura, with all due respect, Carmina is a druid. She is not a cleric. There may have been things she's missed, so I'm going to. I asked you before, and now I'm going to tell you. Take off the cloak and the coat so I can take you over. And he's going to roll intimidation. Now you roll high.
You didn't need to roll high in the first place because Tess was already going to take it off. He was being hesitant about it, and I kind of just like, oh no,
Look.
I was annoyed. Oh dear.
You said you were okay and you didn't need to be looked over. Lao does not accept that. Okay, for reasons he doesn't accept that. And with that 16, you can tell that the clenching of the armrest and the kind of narrow eyes and slight twitch of his beak, yeah, he's starting to get like what you said when you said that you were fine, you didn't need checking over. That was a clear sort of irritation, almost a familiar irritation. Like you think this isn't the first time he has had to do or say this. Yeah, then he rolled an 18 on that intimidation.
And then Tess from okay, I'll do it. I'm just gonna be hesitant about to. Oh no, I've made Lao annoyed. Oh no, please don't be too worried. Please don't. he's just thinking like, oh no, and he kind of just he doesn't flinch, but just kind of hunches a little bit. Like he's extremely tall. Like wow, this lizard kind of towers over you more than a little bit. When he's standing up, which he has been because you can't really throw when you're on four legs, like it'd be really awkward. He kind of hunches over a second and then just quiet sigh. And then he takes off the cloak very hesitantly, and yeah, it's really singed around the area that would like be the chest area. And then he kind of just holds it out very carefully, like kind of probably sets it on the nearest hay bale, and then you can see that yeah, he got smacked with something real good in the chest. Like, yeah, he looks like he got in a fight and he did not really come out the winner. And then you remember that, yeah, he said minorly exploded, and yeah, it definitely looks like he got severely singed for a bit there.
Okay.
And he's gonna just
with when you take off your cloak, when you go to put it on the hay bale, Lao's going to say, "Don't put it there. Give it to me. I'll have a look at it." And he just makes like a come hither motion, hand me the coat kind of thing.
yeah, Tess will hand him the cloak very carefully. Like he likes this cloak. Like it's his. He doesn't have many things that are his. Like, but at this point, he trusts Lao not to like if Lao's this concerned, he doesn't think Lao's gonna hurt it, like damage it or anything. Like he'll hand it over to Lao very carefully.
I mean, considering
he's kind of trying not to make the parts that are afraid any worse afraid.
This just takes me back to the first game we had at the end. Freaking Coke. Oh, times have changed.
I love these two.
Yeah, when you hand it over, he does take it, and you can see he is handling it very gently. He isn't being very rough. He looks at it, and he can tell it's a well-loved item. So he's just going to very carefully like roll it into a bundle, put it on his lap, and then he's going to look back at you and say, And your coat as well, if you wouldn't mind, Tessura. I need to know what I'm looking at.
There's a very quiet sigh, and then you can see like there are like the straps in the front of the coat like are a little bit ragged. Like there's one that looks like it got nearly like sliced through. Like it might be holding on by like a thread. Tessa's tried, but he got exploded.
Okay.
And the coat and the cloak took the worst of it. He wasn't horrendously bad off, but he did get singed a bit. So he kind of takes off the coat, English cooperate, the
That's
coat
hard.
very carefully. In yeah, it's real singed.
Okay. He's also gonna hold his other hand out. He's got one hand on the cloak on his lap, and Sura, you can cast not cast. You can either use Perception or Arcana on this if you want, and he's gonna hold his other hand out for the coat and just again make a hand it over sort of gesture.
Hand it over. And he said, "Was it Arcana or Perception or
Arcana or
what was it?
Perception?
Armor Perception." And underneath the coat, Tess is just wearing like a black shirt and black short like shorts, pants, something. He's got big old claw feet. He can't really wear actual pants easily. Like, he's just wearing clothes. D20 plus 3. And that's a 2.
Oh.
Tessa's okay. You want to know? Hey, Lao. You get the idea that Tessa's not really taken off the coat like ever in the past long while. He is very off kilter right now. Like that's his coat. That's like how like people have like certain pieces of like jewelry they wear for like comfort items or like that. It's like his entire coat is that. It's like he's off kilter by taking it off. He's like, oh, okay, things are weird.
I'm just gonna roll.
Not in a things are weird way, but no, I don't know what I'm doing. I want that back, please.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna say it takes him a bit. I just rolled an insight for that anyway because I wanted to have a good reason. It takes him a little bit to notice this because he is that roll I asked you to do. That was to see if you could tell what he was doing. He's casting mending on your cloak and your coat.
Tess is not paying attention to that. He's kind of hunched over and like kind of sitting on like maybe just sitting on the ground at this point next to Lao. Just and he doesn't know what's going on. He's tired.
That's all right, buddy. So yeah, it takes Lao a little while to notice that Tess is kind of not feeling too great and looks a little exposed. And then he thinks back to all the times that you have removed your cloak and coat, which have been precisely none.
Tess wears layers. He likes having a lot of layers.
Yeah.
I think. Do you want to also roll like? What was that? You rolled a perception with a 12? Was that perception?
That was insight.
Else?
That's just
okay.
how long it took him to figure out how you were feeling.
I'll give you this for that. Like you can see the like shirt he's wearing is also a bit singed, but it's not too bad. It's the coat took the worst of it, honestly.
Okay.
There's like maybe 1 or 2 tiny holes in it, like.
All right. Okay.
But you also see some of the like there's like nicks like in his skin and a few parts that the coat didn't cover.
Okay.
And they've healed, but they still kind of there's a very slight glow to them. They're very softly glowing blue.
Okay. Lao.
Like they've healed. They're not actual like cuts still, but like explosion. It hurt.
Yeah. So what Lao's gonna do, noticing your discomfort, that was a hammer space roll. Once he's done with the coat and the cloak, he's gonna hold those on his lap, and then he's gonna reach his other hand under the blanket, and he's gonna pull out a bundle, and he's gonna hand it to Tessura, and say, "I understand what it's like to. Well, I know you don't feel particularly comfortable without these." And he pats them on. He pats the things on his lap and says, "But if you want, you can just drape this over you for now, and then you'll have these back once I finish my examination." And he hands you the bundle.
We'll investigate. What is in the bundle?
What is in the bundle? It's a large. You unroll this bundle because it's just rolled up. It's not tied up or anything. It's a very large blanket.
Oh,
It's
oh, Tess likes blankets.
the one he's got on his lap. It's kind of like an Afghan blanket. It's just like brown with like faint red and green stripes in it. One he's giving you, this one is this one is just like an old brown blanket. I'm talking like really really old. It's threadbare and worn, but you can tell you can tell from looking at it that this thing was kind of made to last. That this thing probably has been through quite a bit, and you can see from some of the stitches on it, this thing has this thing has no longer can be mended with mending from how threadbare and
Oh,
worn this is. And most of the stitching and stuff in it is hand sewn. Um, yeah, he gestures you to
oh.
cover yourself with that, and then he's gonna roll over and
Tess
do.
is yeah. Tess is gonna take the blanket very very gently and kind of wrap it around his shoulders. Like the spikes that on his shoulders kind of go through the blanket without actually damaging it. Like they kind of aren't quite there in some ways. Like there's a very weird like a relationship with existence with those things. Like they're there, but also Tess wears a cloak, and the cloak is completely undamaged by it, and you can see the blanket's completely undamaged by it. He kind of wraps around his shoulders and then kind of just sits on the ground, probably trying to make sure the blanket doesn't go on the ground as much as possible, and kind of just like kind of shoves his face into the blanket for a second, like, oh, well, that's a nice blanket.
Hey, can you smell,
There's
by
a
the way?
very quiet. Yeah, he probably can.
So if you're shoving your face into it, you can smell something. I don't know how used to this kind of smell, but you smell something kind of smoky. Um, it smells like it smells like actual smoke. Like you're not gonna
Oh,
choke on it, but it smells like a charcoal kind of smells like something. It smells like it's been warmed over many charcoal fires. Like many hearths have had this blanket dripping dry over them, and the fire and the soot and the smoke from each hearth has sunken into this blanket, and you feel like it somehow weirdly it's like retained the warmth and the feeling of like the feeling of a warm hearth and a nice smoky scent come from it. It's weird because usually smoke is kind of a choky kind of smell, but
I think in
this
some
just
way.
smells kind of homey.
Yeah, it does because remember, Tess has lived outside in a forest his whole life. He's sat around a lot of fires. Like his own blanket probably smells like this. Maybe not like charcoal hearth, but like wood smoke. Like it's kind of comforting in a way.
Hmm.
Like Tess is extremely used to sitting around a fire, but it's usually for him it's been an outdoor fire or like one that's in the entrance into a cave somewhere or like entrance to a tent or something.
Yeah.
But he's very used to smoke being like a oddly comforting smell, and it's like, oh, I like this. It's kind of like probably like a happy little hum,
Okay. Um.
and he's still got his like face shoved in a little bit, and he probably like pulls it out again, and, like glances up at Lao because Lao did say he was still doing things. Tess
um
can't just sit here the whole time in a blanket, especially he likes it.
yeah. So what Lau's gonna do? Lau's just gonna kind of sit there and let you do what you do with the blanket, and he gives you kind of a little smirk, and you don't have to roll. You can tell he this is not the first time that he has done this with someone. That he's given them this particular blanket, and he knows the effect it can have on people. It's kind of the reason why you want it out, especially if you're feeling nervous. And he's going to he's going to look at you and say, "Well, Tessura, I need to have a better look. So come now, let me have a look." And I rolled earlier for this. He's gonna have a look, and I got a 17 on that.
Yeah. Well,
So this is just to see if there's anything further that could be done about this injury, quote unquote,
well, I'm trying to think.
or what kind of injury it is exactly. I
Yeah,
know you
you
said
get the
exploded,
idea.
but that could
Yeah,
be
you,
like
you get the
shrapnel.
idea that with the 17, you get the idea that whatever happened, he kind of got slammed into something. Like you probably see like some slight bruising like around parts. Like it all got healed. He's not actively injured, but there's still like residual like bruises and nicks and like scars in the skin. Like he's he got smacked into something and it kind of with a good deal of force. And he did say an explosion. So
Oof. Okay.
yeah. It's
Okay.
mostly around his chest too, like his chest and his neck and not quite his face because he kind of was guarding it with his hands, but like yeah, it will. He got smacked up real good. He gets smacked against a tree. Not that
Okay.
Lao knows this. This test is not explained, but he got hit against something by the force of whatever caused this.
Okay. Um, give me a moment. Um, I know you said it's only like a few cuts and bruises, but
Yeah,
Laos
but
would
you can see like you can probably see what got healed,
yeah.
what parts you can see. Like there's probably some nicks like showing through underneath his shirt and stuff like that, and like yeah, and some bruising and stuff.
Okay. So what's gonna happen is Lao is going to cast Cure Wounds on you because yeah, it might mostly be healed, but also want to get rid of the
Be
worst
paranoid as a
infections as
treat.
you can. Huh?
Lao can take precautions as a treat.
Exactly. So Lao's just gonna he's not gonna tell Tess what he's doing because he has bad etiquette on this particular front.
Tess
He's
is
just gonna
also not going to ask because he doesn't know. He's just like,
he's just gonna reach forward and he's very gently. He's not gonna touch the wounds directly, but he's gonna like place a hand nearby, not on them, but gently nearby, so as not to agitate it. And he's gonna cast Cure Wounds. So congratulations, you no longer have any cuts or bruises, and perhaps some of the ache has probably gone away a little bit.
yeah.
But after he has a look and inspection, and he nods, and then he looks back. He looks up at Tessura, and
They're probably about the same height because Tess is
yeah.
sitting on the ground right now.
Oh right, okay. He looks at Tessura, and you can roll quick perception if you want. I'm gonna try and do this.
Tess's perception. So funny.
Oh man.
Oh
Oh
no.
buddy. Yeah.
17.
You see
Tess is to
this.
the high rolls.
You see this. Yeah, he clearly is looking over the rest of you to see if there are any more scars. With that 5, he doesn't see anything, but you see as he looks up at your face and then down towards your muzzle, he kind of stops at one point on your muzzle, and you know that if people haven't listened to our first game, which is Willoughby Hall game run by Liz, it was amazing. Listen to it. I caused some problems. It was really fun.
Yeah, I would say Tess equally caused it because he did skitter without any warning.
Yes, yes. In that game, Lao gave Tess a bit of a startled little whip tap, unfortunately, on the muzzle, and Tess, you can see that Lao is staring at that, and seems to have his eyes have softened a little bit, and his outline has started to go from that spike from earlier to a little more smudged around the edges. So the spiny looks receded, and instead the outside of it is starting to look like when you smear a bit of pencil across paper. Um,
Aw.
and he's gonna clear his throat, and he's going to sit up a little, clear his throat, and say, "Sarah, you don't have to tell me what happened or what caused this, but if there's something that's threatening you or Carmina or the farm or the people here, I need to know about it." And
It,
he's gonna hold out
it's
his
not.
hand.
Hmm?
I was gonna say, he's just gonna hold out he's gonna hold out a hand towards you as a gesture. He's
Eh,
just yeah, that's
it's not threatening the farm. It was a misunderstanding, honestly. They kind of thought that I was threatening. It, it's a friend of Carmenia's. I'd never met them before this. Like, I mean, we talked afterwards and we made up about it, but I honestly,
A
for
friend
a kid,
from.
that child can hit very hard.
Okay, you said a thing. I gotta roll a few
Oh
things. I
no.
would like you to roll insight, please.
Oh no.
Give me a moment. I've got to make quite a few
do.
rolls.
Oh, by all
Just
means, please do. I'm concerned now.
Oh man, I've been waiting for something like this to come up.
Oh,
Right. Okay.
dirty 20.
Why is it on this that you roll high? Why? Okay.
I mean, you could give disadvantage if you want, but that's up to you. I don't know what you're rolling for in the
You know
first
what?
place,
Yeah,
so
I'm
I.
gonna do disadvantage. I'm doing disadvantage. That's better. That's what I
The
want.
two
Give me
sides
the
of the
7.
spectrum.
So yeah, okay, and then I've got to do a d20. Yeah, okay, you see this. Good, thank you. Finally. So
Oh dear, I'm concerned.
Tess, you mentioned that child sure can hit hard, and you see Lao freeze, and you see his outline start to. It goes from smudge, and it's like his outline almost kind of freezes, and then you see the smudge just fade away, and you see his outline start to wriggle, um, kind of slowly at first, just kind of up and down, out and in, out and in, and then it starts to get fiercer, and it starts to become more wavy, and there's
Oh
less
dear.
lines between each up and down, and soon it's just as if his whole outline is just kind of his whole outline is just going a little bit nuts, just in
It's
and out,
going a
in
bit
and out, up and
haywire,
down, up and
huh?
down, up and down. And that roll there, that 9, that was a sleight of hand, so you do clearly see one of his shaking hands, which doesn't look much like a hand at the moment. It's wriggling so much. You see that very shakily grab onto his other arm, and you see something happen. You see the hand squeeze. You see the arm tighten, and you see his outline start to just slowly smooth. Um, from that point of contact outwards, his outline stops wriggling, slowly recedes. The wriggling goes from in and out rapidly, at wide angles to just slower angles, lower angles, just smaller waves, littler waves, and eventually his outline just goes from that back to a solid line. And you see him take a deep breath and let it back out again.
I think it's safe to say Tess has no idea what he said wrong or what happened or what's going on. And it's like, okay, he's just kind of like mentally like, what? He's just kind of frozen and just like not quite staring at Lao, but it's like, I think yeah, he's kind of just like wondering if he said something very wrong. Like in his mind, it's like he legitimately doesn't think it's Madlad's fault. Like he legitimately does not blame Madlad in his head. So he's just like, as one does. And then Lao reacts like this. He's like, oh no, what did I say? Did I say something wrong?
Oh, Tess, buddy. So once that's all done with, Lao's going to let out a sigh, and he's going to hand you back your clothes, Tessura, and with one hand, with the other hand, he's going to say, Tessura, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like my cloak back, please. I'd like my blanket back.
Very. Tess will probably not take his stuff immediately. Probably he'll like bundle up the blanket he's got very carefully first, and then hand it back, and then take his stuff back. He's kind of just not saying anything. He doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, Tess.
He's just
So Lao takes his blanket back as you take your cloak and your coat back. And as you're presumably putting these clothes back on, he's going to say, "So Carmina has been inviting children around the farm then."
I don't think it was so much a conscious invitation as a kid just wandering up and mistaking me for the wrong person. But, there was a kid here, if that's what you mean.
And this
And
child
then they
was
went back
you.
home. Hmm?
And this
I didn't
child
hear what you
was
said, sir.
you, Carmina.
Well, she was the one who stopped them from panicking even more and picking more of a fight, so yes, I think they knew each other. I didn't really ask for details, considering the whole everything. I was trying not to make things worse.
Tessura, this is very important, and I need you to answer honestly for me. You said that that child was the one who caused you injury, is that correct?
They mistook me for the wrong person. After we talked about it, they were fine, but
Tessura, answer me clearly, yes or no. That child hurt you.
yes,
Okay.
he leaves it at that.
Okay. Lao's just gonna slowly nod his head.
Tess doesn't know what to say.
Oh, Tess, buddy. Oh, Tess, buddy. It's
He doesn't. He legitimately likes Mad Lad a little bit because he's like, "Oh, that was extremely impressive." But also, please talk first, shoot later.
oh, Tess.
And now Lao reacts like this. He's like, "What do?"
Lao's just gonna nod his head slowly, and you can roll either you can roll insight here if you want.
I argue perception, or I guess that's insight sucks a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? For this, yeah, go ahead. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna do
Not
this.
this is much better considering it's a 14.
Cool. With your perception, with a 14, you can see Lao's taking this all very calmly. And you think from the way he's sort of just staring off into space, sort of he seems somehow like he's both staring off into space and hyper focused. It's a very strange kind of combination to look at.
Thinking extremely hard about something in particular.
Yeah, perhaps. And you see him reach back underneath his blanket and he pulls out his dagger again and he's going to look at you, Tessura, and he's going to say, "I'm going to try one last time to hit the furthest target, and then I'm going to head home, Tessura." And he's going to roll over to the. He's going to roll over to a far target. I'm going to roll perception quickly. Um, cool. Good job. Now it takes him a little while to find this. He's probably
A bit rattled.
yeah. No, he actually doesn't look rattled. He looks completely fine. He looks very calm. He just looks nonplussed right now, just very kind of chill almost. And he looks around. And he eventually finds that small little target that you decided to put up from a tree, I believe. And he is
Yeah.
going to roll this
I'd
twice.
say that's right on the edge of 60s. You probably have disadvantage for that. I think you're rolling with just a
Yeah,
regular dagger.
I think I'm rolling this right.
I think.
No.
Mm,
I'll just do that as that one. Okay.
yeah, I think
Just
Tess is still staying where he is, and he kind of just has taken it, like, kind of sat down the nearest hay bale and, like, kind of pulled his cloak around him. Like, he's kind of sitting there, kind of watching Lao, I guess.
yeah.
Just sitting on there like a hunched up gargoyle.
Um.
Big
Ooh.
clothes.
So Lao didn't. Lao did not turn that 45-degree angle that he usually did. He did his head on. He just lifted the dagger which he drew from under his blanket, over his shoulder and threw it, and he whiffed it quite a bit. He rolled an 8 at disadvantage because this is about 50 feet away, so the dagger goes into the trees, and Lao is going to sit there for a second, and he is going to look at the target, and then he is going to give me a moment. Let me see where this spell is. Cool. Okay, let's try this.
Scared to ask what you're doing, but by all means, please do it.
Wow, buddy. Okay. You see him lift his hands up, and you see his hand start to grow or start to glow black, and then he clenches his hand in a fist, flings it out towards the target, and that was guiding bolt. He missed again.
No.
And it goes flinging past the target. And you just hear a from somewhere in the woods. And Lao's going to just Lao's just going to sit there for a second, looking out into the woods, and then he's going to lower his hands to the sides of his chair, and then look over his shoulder at Tessura and say,
It was not moved since he first sat down. He's sitting, and that's all he's doing because he doesn't know if he feels at this point that if he says anything else, he might make whatever situation is going on worse. He's just sitting.
"Oh, Tess, buddy." Lao looks over his shoulder at you, Tess, and he nods his head and he says, "Tessura, I would be careful if I were you around some of the children around here. Children can be very, very vicious if you're not careful." And he is going to turn his head back towards where he threw the item. And
I think behind him, Tess speaks up a little bit. He's like, I'm not as worried about the kids. Like, it's nothing I'm not used to, honestly. Like, I'm more worried if they get a bunch of adults on their thing. Like, I can just hide, usually. Didn't work so well this one time, but, thing I'm not used to. I appreciate the tip, though.
You shouldn't have to hide from anyone, Tessura. You should be able to do what you want without that fear in you. No adult or child or creature or beast should be allowed to make you feel like you shouldn't be here. And with that, he is going to make his way into the woods. You can say some last words if you'd like before he goes.
What would Tess say? Tess, speak to me. Or speak to Lao, technically. Behind, you just hear a quiet mutter of Tess just being like, I haven't left yet. I'm still here, aren't I? He's just leaves it at that. Like, I think, is Lao gonna go find his thing and then directly leave, like not come back to the farm? Like between finding his dagger and actually leaving for good for the day?
Roll. Is this you asking, or is this Tessura?
This is me saying that if Lao takes too long in the woods, Tess might wander over and actually see if Lao's still looking. Like if he wants help, if he's still there or not.
So what I was gonna do, I was going to He's basically. I was gonna make a roll to see how long it takes him to find his dagger because he did throw that into the woods and he spent good money on it. He is not leaving it in there.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna
Find it.
do, um, I
Roll for how
am.
long it takes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this again. I am going to bless myself again because bugger you, I want to do that.
Find the thing.
Find the thing.
I'd
Oh
say
no,
Tess
so
could help, but he's got a
Tessura
minus
saving throw. Damn. Where's this? I know there's one that improves one of your ability scores, but I don't know
enhance
where
ability,
it
maybe?
is. Huh?
Is it enhance ability?
I think it's enhance ability, but I think that was for
It
a
sounds
specific
like
thing. Let me check.
it. Oh, Tess does not have it, so.
Strength checks. Because those are specific checks, they're not actual ability things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's only for checks. Oh, okay. This might work. Okay, you know what? I can't find anything, so I am just going to roll straight investigation because trying to find this ability enhancement isn't working. Da, 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 da. Oh my words! These low rolls today. Tell you what. So yes, you kind of sit there for a while after Lao goes into the woods, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes before he emerges, but that's almost like on the strike of
Yeah.
you know.
Tess probably has gotten up and is probably just standing, like, leaning against the barn, like, debating whether or not he follows. Like, did Lao leave? Is Lao still in the woods? Question mark, question mark. Do I go look for him?
Well, you wait 15, 20 minutes, and then you hear a rustling, and you hear Lao come back out of the woods. And he's got some like leaves and twigs stuck to his chair, and like a couple of leaves on his shoulders, and there's definitely some twig, like a load of twigs and leaves caught in his blanket, because that's a real kind blanket. It's not immune to the
You are not
Toonkind
immune to
shenanigans.
twigs. You are
No,
not immune to woods.
no, it isn't. And he rolls out, and he looks at you, Tessura, and he's just gonna give a quiet nod and say, "Thank you for practicing with me today, Tessura. I did not do as well as I'd hoped, but suppose we could try this again one day. But
If if you're around and you'd like to, then I wouldn't mind the company.
Lao's just gonna nod his head and then um, go back around the barn towards the main road. And as he goes, he says, "Thank you, Tessura, and good luck." And he's just gonna make his way away.
I don't know if Lao would turn around at any point between main road there, but Tess is probably just watching. And if I don't know if Lao would turn around, but if he does, Tess will just raise a hand and wave, I guess.
I'm afraid to say Lao does not turn around.
Yeah.
He just goes.
Lao is a forwards facing only person. Gotcha. Well, Tess probably just watches. That is his thing.
He's just going, man. He's just going. And unless there's anything you wanted to do, like post-credit wise, in terms of discussion for what happens with Tess, I think we can leave it at this.
I can't think of much. No. Well, he's
Yeah.
got his coat and his cloak patched back up again.
And it's all mended nice.
Yeah.
I will say that as you put them away, you want to roll me your perception investigation quickly?
I'll roll perception because investigation's -1, which is even
Yeah.
worse than most stuff. That's a 16.
16. As you put them away, actually, you probably put them on.
Yeah.
As you put them on, they find they do smell a little smell a little weird. They smell kind of smell smoky, but not like the blanket that Lau gave you earlier. This smells a little different. You can't quite pick up exactly what it is. It's definitely a different smell. But it's as you kind of like rub, you might even touch the part that it smells. Your hand's gonna come away, and it's gonna come away. And there's the parts of the coat that have been mended. There's a little bit of charcoal left behind on the coat. And yeah, your coat is now very slightly charcoaly.
It'll brush off. It's nothing. He's run around the woods with it for 20 odd years. Like, you know, he takes good care of it, but it does get a little bit dirty at times. So, hey, now it's not got holes in it, which is much better.
True.
So,
Yeah, that's
still
where we
kind of
end it
just,
then, I think.
yeah,
Right.
it probably,
Thank you
yeah.
everyone for listening, future and present. Um, this was interesting. I'm very glad a certain thing happened so that I could do a certain thing, or at least introduce it.
And Tess got to have himself patched back up again, literally, because the coat.
Literally, every time Lao meets Tessura, he's just fucking putting you back together and scaring you.
Either that or he's putting himself back together.
Pretty much. It's just
Neither of these two can
hurt and
go
someone
like
needs healing.
one time. Someone always gets in trouble.
Yes.
But hey, at least today they weren't actively getting in trouble, injured right then.
True.
It's a step up. It's improving.
I mean, I didn't roll a nat 1, so it didn't somehow rebound the dagger into itself. I'm
No.
thankful for that. But hey,
Oh no.
yeah, I think we can leave it here then. Thank you everyone for listening, future and present, and enjoy the rest of your time existing and being a person or not a person. I don't know. I don't judge. You might be a chair. I'm not going to judge your life choices. But yes, anyway, farewell. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.